Order, it is 5 o'clock on March 27th. Just so everyone who's here knows, this is a work session for the Board of Trustees. We were asked by the Select Board last week to come to a consensus on an amendment to the current library ordinance to be submitted to the Select Board for consideration next week. So at that town meeting, there will be an opportunity for public comment, but during the work session, we will not be accepting public comment because we have work to do. So to the board, what are your thoughts right now for an amendment?
I would like to recommend Julie's whole ordinance. The reason I like this ordinance is because I go back to a simpler advisory role for the board. And I also became recently aware that from a person whose name is Stephanie Zarinsky. She was on the state library. She was hired by them. She's retired now, but she used to go around to all of us to teach us about what was appropriate for library boards. And she said, once the library becomes a public institution, it is not able to follow the ordinance. The ordinance means nothing. Now, I think I'm reporting that correctly, but it makes sense to me too, because it's a simpler way of managing this chaos. It's between the library director and the town manager. Now, of course, we know the town manager may not know all there is to know about the library and how it works, but he's responsible for all of the other public employees also in the same frame. And so it is his responsibility to know that, and people can report to him if they want to. So I think that's my explanation.
I'm not sure I understand what Stephanie's point is about the ordinance not being valid anymore.
Yes, and in fact, that may be why we never followed it. Because somebody came to our group. Do you remember?
I remember we had like a Zoom meeting with somebody from the Maine State Library.
Right, and that, I don't know if it was this person.
No, it wasn't. The name's floating on the edge, Van, and if I can pull it,
Because like the town voted on it in 1996, and the town's attorneys now are saying that it's legal.
Well, she's saying that it's up to that it's not appropriate.
Okay, so we definitely need to change the ordinance. Need to amend.
So that's why I'm recommending this simpler version of the whole thing. And because I think it'll do away with the confusion that's going on. And I think Chip and I have discussed this also. Not to say that there aren't recommendations that the board can make to Julie about whatever ideas they have. And so that's my say.
Are there others in favor of Julie's version of the amendment?
That's the simpler way of going. But if you choose not to go that way, I've got some ideas which I think would fix up some of the other problems we had this year.
Okay. How do you guys feel?
I feel like the version or very close to what you and Jake had presented and that we've worked on. If you weren't there before, they worked on previous to all of this, where it's. I don't like I said this like for me, I don't like this idea of calling either all advisory or all governance. I feel like essentially it's advisory with a smidge of governance. If that's, I don't know how you say that. Quasi. A quasi or by or part, whatever part, the partial. in my mind, my son puts everything in percentages in mathematics, and I feel like it's a 90% advisory. There's a very small amount that's actually any kind of supervisory or governance, and that those items are actually, I think, beneficial to the library, in town. The one about creating an action plan and looking at it every year, reviewing how do we do this year, what do we need to tweak for next year, what are we hearing from the community, and being part of that discussion in a way that has meaning. And the other part is having some sort of, and I think Chip wanted to mention that about the evaluation part, that, because we're patrons, because we meet monthly, that we have some insight as to how the library and the library director, is functioning, and, you know, we need to have some sort of, say, in that evaluation process, and making sure it happens. I think that's to the benefit of the library and the director. And those are the only two pieces. The rest of it is, I think the way it's written, it seems pretty clear. And then, of course, if there's ever time to hire a new librarian, being part of that discussion. But that's it. As far as I think there's a misconception out there that the board wants to be part of the everyday workings of the library, and I don't want to do that.
I don't either.
I don't think any of us want to do that. We're
No.
volunteers.
Right.
I think that if we weren't invested in the library and care about it, we wouldn't be here in the first place. So I think, I feel strongly that some sort of tweaking that version so it works the best for the library, but definitely keeping that version. And that's also bringing over what was attended by the people who turned this library over to the town 30 years ago. Now, those people, some of them are here, have some feelings about that, but it's kind of, I feel like splitting up. And I've had that discussion. I can remember having a discussion about why is this an advisory board? Why do you have to go through the hoops of getting elected? And we don't really have, other than creating the bylaws, there's not a lot of reason for this. What is the point of this?
Yeah, why do we have to take an oath and all that stuff?
All those things, yeah. So it made more sense when the full scope of that came to light.
I have nothing else to add. I fully agree with Allison.
Okay, well, everyone knows that obviously I prefer the version that I submitted to the town, which is not advisory only. So Chip, would you like to suggest your edits to?
Yes. Used to work process every day and now I don't, and my foot is getting old and I couldn't get things printed out. I do have it.
Do you want this copy?
Probably doesn't matter, but kind of looked at it where the probably most problems arose, I thought, for sure. And that was with the supervision and hiring and firing section, especially the supervision. So I think I have a solution for this. Section. And that's the last page, I believe.
Supervision.
Of which.
Of the draft.
Just one we worked on.
It's basically the same thing that the group worked on.
I did a page, I'm not sure,
Oh.
but I don't have the complete version of the,
I don't
are
have
you
numbers
looking
on
at the
this
March
either.
2nd?
I have two copies. Would you like the copy? It's not, I didn't do color printing.
Yeah.
The copy that we're looking at is the one that is on the town's website.
Okay, so I don't think you guys are talking about the same doc.
I think we are.
This is McDermott.
Yes, and that was very close to the one that the board had been working on together.
I'm not sure what she was looking at. So I have to make McDermott.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about the library director being supervised. And this is the evaluation panel.
Mhm.
And here's where I thought my ideas might improve this a little bit.
Okay.
You've had this. I can give it maybe a couple of other things.
And Chip, can we just clarify, you're looking at the board's collective amendments or the McDermott?
The one that we,
The McDermott version.
this one, yeah,
Because I thought you were referring to the one that ordered back in March. Collective.
that's basically this one.
Mm.
which is-
Okay,
But really, I went off.
Just trying to clarify.
Okay. Says the library director is supervised by the town manager and the trustees. I changed that to trustees. It says a group. All in consultation with the town manager, the board will conduct an evaluation interview with the director prior to the expiration of the director's period of probationary employment. And thereafter annually. For the purpose, the chair may elect to convene an evaluation panel made up of any trustee who would like to participate in the panel. That's- So if you wanted to, it'd be all five of us on that panel. Where you had it done to just, originally they only had three people there. And again, this would be five people who have enough interest in this position. The other thing with the town manager, I really have a problem with somebody. He also has, he said it's a dual, you're one of the public employees and one of the departments of the town. And he views things differently, I think, than people who use the library all the time. So you had him originally as a member.
Mhm.
And then you chose somebody else.
I chose somebody else.
We had three people.
Yes.
I think it'll be
So
a bunch of different reasons.
my thoughts on the town manager being included, one, the town manager does manage all of the department, the heads of the departments across the town. And so there's that town relationship that I think is important since he's the payroll, like, I don't think we can leave the town manager out of an evaluation process or a hiring, firing process.
But he's there. He does that with a different, as the department head.
So you think there should be two evaluations, like one
No, no,
from
no,
him?
no, no, no. This is the people who use the library all the time. That's why I feel.
In theory.
In theory, okay.
Can I interject for a second?
Sure.
This is the third time, Julie, that publicly was referred to in theory or made some sort of remark. I was not able to respond to the one on the third about using the library or not using the library. March 3rd, the one that was done by Zoom, because I wasn't on Zoom at the time, I had been kicked off from Zoom.
Well,
About,
not through our fault, it was
Yes.
your Wi-Fi.
I don't, and I want to get into it. No, when I tried to get back on, I was on the Zoom you created. I was not let back on, I had been bounced back over. And I made that clear. Anyway. I use the library. I don't come to the groups that are happening right now. I've been here for programming. I take out passes. I 4 different times I've come for books that weren't available, and that was fine. They just weren't available. I brought my son here.
I wasn't sending, I'm just saying it's a group, it seems that.
And I feel like there are other board members who use e-cloud services.
All I was trying to make was that you guys don't see that we do one. That was my reason for saying.
Okay, so back to, Jeff, what you were saying. From the evaluation standpoint, and I think everyone here knows that the evaluation happened this year was happening under the previous ordinance, following the guidelines of the previous ordinance, and I think you're right about having more trustees involved. But when it happened, it was done on what was laid out on that 96 ordinance. One of the things, and I was on that panel, but one of the things I found out, and I won't divulge stuff, there were things that the manager could speak to that I had no idea. And there were things that myself or Anna could speak to that the manager had no idea. And we used the evaluation that was taken right off from the Main State Library, this website. And then this is a standard evaluation to do for a library director. And it was based off of that. So and I found it like, I mean, there were places when I filled it out and I did a fill, I put NA, not applicable. I just can't speak to that. I can't speak to this. I can't speak to this. And on his side, there were things he couldn't talk about. He never uses the library. He hasn't been in, he wouldn't know how the director is with patrons and that. So there, I feel like it's it's a good way, I mean. I think that having more people, and it wasn't meant to exclude you, or Ruthann made it clear she didn't want to be, it wasn't meant to exclude you. I think that Anna was trying to follow what the current ordinance was, to be following the ordinance that hadn't been followed. So,
That's, yeah, there's another point there too. This is the first time we've done this.
right,
And this should be used probably as a model going forward. So maybe another reason for more input of the five of us.
So I
And-
had a
and-
thought to having the trustees be more involved, because I think we don't want too many like cooks in the kitchen, and having 6 people do an evaluation is like not really standard for any job evaluation, but the trustees, we could put something in that says the trustees will all get together as a group to discuss how the previous year went and any like things they want brought up during the evaluation, so that everyone does have a chance to speak and have their voice heard. And then a smaller group of 1 to 3 people can do the evaluation. How does anybody feel about that?
Six. It's just 5 people. That's. You're basically now at 3. I mean, 2 more, and again, I think everybody is like-minded. You want to see the library be as successful as possible.
One of the reasons I didn't want to participate is because I don't have a library degree. I do get to the library very frequently. I see how it's run. And perhaps I need to be participating in that because I can see what goes on. So I don't mean to explain myself, but it's because I originally wanted the whole thing to be much simpler and us to be just advisory. But I've said that so many times.
Well, in that case, then I feel like we should put something in that says the trustees can participate if they want to, but wouldn't have to if they didn't feel comfortable. Right?
That's what I wrote someplace. So. Yeah, my stuff here. Any trustee who would like to participate in the board should be able to. So if all 5 wanted to. they
Okay,
should.
how do you guys feel about the whole board being involved in the evaluation? Because we can just, that would make Chip happy. We could say it may be involved so that if you didn't want to. And then along with the town manager and if desired, the president of the Friends.
No, excuse me. I don't think that's an appropriate.
Julie, this is the board has to make the decision.
I'm part of the consensus, I believe, because my proposal was
no,
considered.
Well, I think she needs to say what she needs.
Well, we know what Julie wants because she
No, we
submitted
don't.
her ordinance.
Let her say what she wants to say.
The Friends do not have any supervisory laws, they have fundraising. And it has been a problem in the very distant past. Maybe distant, but it was still a problem when they thought they had some authority to tell me what to do. I don't want to go back to those days. I do have some other concerns about this supervisory. You know, you're talking about evaluations now, but, basically you're saying that the library director is supervised by the town manager and the chair of the trustees. It's not the board of the trustees. So I feel that. should
Change
be the
that.
board. You
Yeah,
did?
Chip would like to change that to the trustees.
Okay, it's difficult without
I know.
that.
I mean, the chair would have to speak for the trustees, because we can't, there's 5 trustees. We're not all going to agree on everything all the time, so the chair would be the one to speak to the majority of the trustees in matters of evaluation and policy and that kind of thing.
You also have, if everyone's contributing. Then you have especially when you're going to, with the assessment, the action plan. Everybody would have been contributing to the action plan. And I know there was problems when things got unpleasant with the last meeting and we didn't get to down a couple more items down to the report you were going to give. But still, we don't know what the action plan is, and it's been almost 2 months now.
We will get to the actions, not tonight, because we
I
have
know,
to focus on
Right,
this.
right, right.
Um,
But if
Absolutely.
everyone was contributing to it as it was being formed,
no, I think that's all great. Like, I don't have any problems with that.
And I had understood that the library director would also have been involved in development.
I think it's in there, but can we have that in the?
It says mutually agreed upon.
But I was not included in it this time. I was not interviewing. If everything happened.
Well, then maybe
without
we need to
any-
clarify the language on what that means.
if this is gonna be the model for the future, this is good. Talk about what you was pleased with that happened this year, and what could use improvement. Going forward, we could use this. That's a plan.
As to the president of the Friends Association, I think that if they wanted to be a part of it, I think it would be valuable. They have a unique relationship with the library director that the trustees and the town manager don't have. And so I don't see, if they want to be a part of it, I think their input, whoever it is, could be valuable. Mhm.
Maybe they could come to that meeting where we all discuss and they could report to us. If they have any issues or positives or whatever. You know,
The trustees like group.
or the president of the trustees.
I think that creates a very awkward situation.
I think that, if we're talking about having some sort of and it would have to be a dedicated meeting or an evaluation. That preparing for it, so that not everybody goes, I think everybody's showing up fresh without having a discussion from the panel. Doesn't make a lot of sense, I mean, from the board at an evaluation panel, doesn't make a lot of sense, I think. Somewhere along, I know it was Chipper, and it said this, but having some sort of group meeting, I think. Having, someone from the Friends, who they can, what they want to come to have input, and so it's just, it's there. So we can factor that in, they don't really necessarily need to go to the final evaluation with the town manager, but I think considering a lot of our. Funding outside the budget, I mean, all of our funding outside of it comes from the Friends, that's an important relationship, and how that goes would be an important factor.
I think you're creating a very slippery slope. Why not include members of the public? Because that's also a very important relationship with the library.
But also, at the Friends of the Library have their meetings, and all of this is discussed there already. So it's already done.
We're asking them to come report to us. That's the point. So we can report to the town manager when we have the evaluation.
It gives them
Board
power,
members.
it gives that organization.
How does everyone
Power.
feel
They
about
can-
the president of Friends being involved? Just,
Excuse me, but I'm making another point, their bylaws do not include any supervisor.
it's not, it's just input.
I think that's inappropriate. I'm gonna just keep saying that.
I'm okay with the president of the association being involved.
And I don't know that it has to be the president, I think that if they want to send someone else, I mean, it generally ends up being the president, but then send someone just
An ambassador of the Friends.
designated representative, however, I don't know. You know, I think. It's such a. Unique relationship. And how well it was tied to the library. And. That I think is important.
It's a very distinct relationship, and it's about fun, it's not about supervisor.
I don't see it as a supervisor, you get input on how he's going.
No, I just see it as another, person in the choir. All right, I'm gonna see
About them.
I think they should be involved
if they want to be,
if they want.
okay. For this purpose, all the trustees who want to participate. Sorry, I'm trying to like change this paragraph so that it says the stuff that everyone's wanted to say. Do we want the panel include the trustees and and a representative of the Friends also include the town manager at that time, or is that gonna be a separate thing? Separate?
I think if you're,
Because right now it says following consultation with the town manager. So like step one, talk to the town manager, get their input, like get their part of the evaluation, and then the trustees talk about their stuff.
are you saying, does it need to be a meeting where all interested parties are present at the same time? That's
Yeah.
logistically a nightmare.
Yeah, it would be. Is the evaluation panel also going to conduct the interview? So all of the people are all in it together, or just the evaluation panel? That's like I feel like it should be back to the town manager, the chair, and one other person, if that's what the chair wants. For the actual presentation of it, because then it's like, I don't know, if I was a library director, that would be kind of intimidating to have like 6 people in the room all talking about what I did in the past year.
See what that's the problem,
You know,
especially you have the librarians self-evaluation to work with also.
that's not included in this. Do we want that to be
Why
part of
isn't
it?
that? Why isn't
Yeah,
that?
I thought that
I
was-
just offered that because I thought that would be beneficial, but we can put it into the ordinance, including a self-evaluation.
I thought that was very light. A lot of things happened here, I wasn't aware of until I read that. That also took a long time to put,
It did.
and it should be part of it.
Was it included in the evaluation? This year?
Yes. It's mentioned in the evaluation. We really can't talk about the evaluation because
I'm not
it's
asking about
personnel.
content, I'm asking about process.
Okay, so the library director may also complete the self-evaluation. The library director is supervised by the town manager and the trustees, with the chair acting for the trustees' majority decisions. Following consultation with the town manager, the evaluation panel will conduct an evaluation interview with the director prior to the expiration of the director's period of probationary employment and annually thereafter. For this purpose, the chair may elect to convene an evaluation panel, including all trustees. Should I say take out will? Convene, will,
May.
convene, may.
You don't want to have a situation where you can't do it because somebody's in the hospital, somebody's traveling,
okay.
somebody's got a wedding that day, you know, that's what I'm saying, the logistics of getting, the more people you get together, the harder it is to get them together. And if you have a deadline on it, you know, it will be difficult if you have it worded. So, and if you have, you know, both of the trustees or enough people there to speak, I think it makes sense. It's more than what has happened was in the previous ordinance. But it doesn't preclude you from getting it done because not everybody can be there on that time. When you think about just regular Monday night trustee meetings, how often is somebody not able to be in person? This is the kind of thing you really need in person, you don't zoom that in, I think, but.
Okay, so how does this sound? Following consultation with the town manager, the evaluation panel will conduct an evaluation interview with the director prior to the expiration of the director's period of blah, 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 blah. Okay, for this purpose, the chair may convene an evaluation panel, including all trustees who want to participate, a designated representative of the Friends Association, if the Friends so desire. And then the library director may also complete a self-evaluation.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and probably answer this, this is gonna go in front of the town's lawyers too, so if we do have a,
If the select board decides to put this on the ballot, they will have to run it through the town's attorneys to make sure
Right.
that we're not having people vote on something that's.
so if there's a word that's not.
Right, yeah. Right. And.
Correct.
Okay. I hate. I mean. Okay, Chip, did you have other things to this that you would like us to consider?
Really. No. As we've said several times, a lot of there's different parts of the town that are represented by the people here.
Mhm.
Retired people, people with
Yeah.
kids.
That's what
By
was great about the
having
board.
all these people in with their ideas, it's gonna be good.
I think it definitely. Cause like, if you disagree, that's the part the town disagree sometimes, and it's fun, it's all good. Why were you? Okay. Does anyone else have anything they think we should amend or edit or add? Because,
Yeah, since we're in the supervision portion, there's reference in a couple of places to an operations plan. It doesn't seem to be the same as the action plan. So I'm not sure what that is,
good point.
and it appears,
Right,
on
so they're
another
gonna
page.
be operations plan.
And I would like it made clear that the action plan, the mutual agreement should include the director. It did not happen this year. And there was no real interview. I wasn't interviewed, I was evaluated. And then the results were read to me. There was no interview prior to it.
Well, I guess that's a confusing word because it should be, it's an evaluation, annual evaluation, or like work performance review. And so maybe the word interview is what is confusing. But back to this operations plan.
Was that in the
purpose-
previous one, or was that something that got put in here?
It's not put in, it's here, it's just from the old one.
Okay.
The purpose of these, I'm just gonna say evaluation,
I don't believe that's correct.
but it is, it's a, you know, job evaluation.
I think where it says the purpose of the interviews was to. It's by evaluating a success, but it appeared to me there would have been an interview.
We'll conduct an evaluation interview.
Otherwise, why wouldn't they have just said evaluation?
Well, I think interview is a confusing word, and I think it should be an evaluation, because
It says
otherwise,
in an evaluation interview with the director,
yes, I see that.
Where is that?
first sentence of the supervision.
Evaluation interview prior to the expansion. It has to do with for the, and thereafter annual. So you were saying you had an evaluation interview before the evaluation panel meets?
That was my understanding of the
Okay.
reading of it.
How do we feel about just removing the word interview? So that it's clear as like a performance review, like a normal. performance
It
review.
says with though, not. That's why I'm confused. An evaluation interview with the director.
Well, I think an evaluation
not
with
of
the director, but like, the evaluation panel will conduct an evaluation with the director, blah, blah, blah. I think that reads legibly.
So,
Well,
so
it-
you're suggesting that panel who's going to work on the evaluation have an interview with the director prior to the evaluation?
That's how it reads to me.
You want this with the hard copy? I have.
If you look for the second paragraph, it talks about the purpose of the interviews is to evaluate the success of all interested parties. Clearly, the director would be an interested party.
Well, but the director is the one that's being evaluated. Like, I don't get, my boss just tells me what they think about me. I don't get to like chime in.
But this is not your job. This is the ordinance.
No, I'm just saying that a performance review, the employee is given the evaluation and doesn't weigh in.
But normally, I believe an evaluation would be by people who are trained in it. And so that would happen there. So we talked about that, I think, at the previous meeting.
I am a supervisor, but I mean, I think that would be, if we had people, if we had to have the trustees all have supervisory experience, that would be limiting us even further.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the workplace. I mean, I know in education that often you're the admins, we do yearly interviews with classroom teachers, and sometimes the interventionists, not all the time, but saying, what's going right, what's going on, what do you think?
It was beneficial also to have like the town involved because they are personnel
Well,
people,
that's
right?
they-
They are
that-
HR people.
I read that differently. I read that as sort of a fact gathering part of the process.
Okay.
The evaluation interview, that with the self-interview.
So what happened and what I think should happen is that the panel gets together and fills out the evaluation. And talks to the town manager. And then, once we compile all of our notes and everything, and then we have like a nice type document, then we meet with the library director and have the actual review. Yes,
That's what you're thinking, that's what did happen, but you think that should be happening continually. And so,
because otherwise it would just be like a discussion like the whole time, like in front of the library director.
no, I think the library director, I think the duties of the board is to have the library director have some sort of an interview annually before the evaluation is compiled.
That's how the ordinance reads to me, that's all I'm saying.
There's your language in here, which talks about everyone's responsibility to enforce or go, or try to get the action plan going successfully.
Mhm.
That implies a lot of input from the director too,
My question would be,
because you all got the same goal,
Yeah.
common goal.
so, but then does it make it redundant to have a self-evaluation and a personal interview as well? Or can you take out the self-evaluation if you have the interview? I mean, one's a document and one's, unless you have asked for both.
The way I see it is that library director serves the board and we are voted in to represent the town. And so if we're like, this is what should happen in the coming year. These programs were successful. Let's do more of them. These didn't have great attendance. Let's do more, like, let's do less of those. That's the whole point of the board, is that we are the voice.
But the library director has to tell you whether they work.
So that's the interview.
That's the mutually agreed upon part.
Right, that would be the interview.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I am a director. I currently, I'm trying to think in the future when I'm no longer here, what this might mean to a future person in this position. Usually department heads are able to conduct their business as they see fit. I have, in fact, the job description currently prescribes that the director have a master's in library science. I also have nearly 20 years of experience. So I'm not sure why the director's position would be diminished to have arguably, I'm not talking about this particular board, but to arguably have people who right off the street get elected or appointed who have no experience with library management or the way things normally would operate.
To me, this is just very traditional, how boards and CEOs.
I think the language in it is where the board and the director make the action plan collaboratively.
Okay, so let's go to that line.
I think we talked about that when we did that work session.
Okay, the outcome of these evaluation reviews shall be an action plan, a mutually agreed upon set of goals and objectives for the library operations in the coming 12 months.
So is our plan, an action plan, did they get?
I think the operations plan is supposed to be an action plan.
That's
yeah.
a-
That's when when I replaced it with action plan, I was like, that makes sense. That goes along with the whatever, everything
Because
else that's said.
Well, it still appears twice in the
So that
in
needs
the
to be changed.
document.
I don't remember the language, operations plan being before.
I'm doing a search. For operations plan. And I'm not saying, I'm just in library.
It
operations.
mentions it at least twice. I flagged it at least twice. The operations plan appears under personnel C, section C for personnel.
Personnel, see, that's the one I. Oh, and C, and C,
I don't,
there's, I don't see a C, I just have a B, it's under supervision.
there's personnel, C personnel.
That's what I'm referring to. It says the library will be staffed by the director, blah, 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 as provided for in the operating plan and budget. And then it also appears on the next page. Under supervision.
And that's referring to the town's operating plan.
We're making subdivisions here, it appears in the document, that's why I'm raising it, it appears twice.
Library should staff the library director with the help of personnel and volunteers that provided for an annual operations plan. What do you call your annual plan? Budget, whatever you would call it. What would you call that?
I don't have one. Official with the town in there?
You don't submit something to the town where it's like, this is giving your budget and what you need.
A
for-
budget. an
Budget, and
annual
it has
budget,
line items for what they're gonna go for,
but
that's,
that's not called an operating plan.
well, that's
We
what I'm
can
saying, is what
call
should
it
be
annual
called,
budget?
the annual budget.
I don't know, the words are not mine, the operating plan is
I
not
know,
my
what
word.
I'm saying is, what are your words when you, that, there's gotta be a concept there of what it is I need the money for, when I turn it in, what it's gonna go to, what is that? What do you refer to that as? That just called the budget?
Yep.
Okay, so,
Annual budget.
annual budget.
Paid staff person to the employees of the town, subject to personnel.
But then it
policies
appears
maintained by
again in the
town.
next section, and it seems to be different. So implementing the budget would not be the same as. No, I think this is a different term. I don't think it's synonymous with budget.
Okay, so
I really
library
wish
should
the
staff-
town attorney had a first pass and created a boilerplate. I don't think we would be at the.
Okay, well, this moving forward, the library shall be staffed by a library director with the help of subordinate staff persons, interns and volunteers as provided for in the annual budget. That just means like, that's how the library director can't hire more people than the budget can pay for. I mean, that's very clear.
Then what does it mean under section C of this, under section B of supervision?
That's what we said, that shouldn't, it should say action plan.
Yeah, so then we change that to action plan. Which makes way more sense because that's what we were talking about above it. Okay, so back to this, supervision section. Following consultation with the town manager, the evaluation panel will. Making all trustees who want to participate, a designated representative of the Friends, if the Friends so desire. Oops. There's one little thing that we haven't fixed. Okay. Outcome of this evaluation. Okay, so. If the outcome of the evaluation review shall be an action plan, a mutually agreed upon set of goals and objectives for library operations in the coming 12 months. Should we put in some language saying, following the annual review, the board will meet with the library director to create the action?
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to read this, so we know how we change that supervision section?
I'd rather see it in writing. It's confusing, not to have to in writing.
Well, today, we have to vote on what we're gonna submit to the town today, because we don't have time otherwise.
So the supervision section
Mhm.
itself, just that, doesn't want anything else with it?
I think we're jumping around without looking at all of it, and I think there may be other provisions that deserve discussion.
Why don't you read that supervision?
Okay. So the library director is supervised by the town manager and the trustees, with the chair acting for the trustees majority decisions. Following consultation with the town manager, the evaluation panel will conduct an evaluation with the director prior to the expiration of the director's period of probationary employment and thereafter annually. For this purpose, the chair may convene an evaluation panel, including all trustees who want to participate, and a designated representative of the Friends, if the Friends so desire. The library director may also complete a self-evaluation. The purpose of these evaluations, plural, is to promote the success of the library in serving the needs of the people of the town by evaluating the success of all interested parties in achieving the publicly identified goals and objectives of the library, providing support for the director in implementing the action plan, identifying and ensuring a response to concerns felt by any party about the management of the library facility or collection or town's government management of its portion of the library's affairs, and exploring ideas for ways in which the trustees, the Friends, the town manager, and the selectmen can work together to improve library services for the town. In addition to these formally convened evaluation reviews, the chair and the director are responsible for communicating with each other informally at regular intervals throughout the year about any issues that bear on progress toward the achievement of the identified goals and objectives.
I would prefer that say the trustees, not the chair. I think everyone should have input all the time.
This isn't saying that the board can't have input at all the time.
I would like it a little clearer, since this is gonna stand for posterity. I think it should be.
Do any of the
clear.
board members want to clarify that language?
Read that last part.
Okay.
That part of.
In addition to these formally convened evaluation reviews, the chair and the director are responsible for communicating with each other informally at regular intervals throughout the year about any issues that bear on progress toward the achievement of the identified goals and objectives. To me, that's just like normal chair of the board and library director stuff.
Well, the chair is really kind of a symbolic. Really, usually the chair runs meetings. That's why I'm asking for that to be replaced with the trustees. We meet every month as a body. And I go to those meetings.
In the past, the chair has met with you or emailed with you directly, come up with an agenda and have a plan and talk about whether we need emergency meetings or cancellations and then inform the board afterwards.
Yeah.
That historically has been how it's done. I think if
I
we
don't
don't,
think this relates to agendas.
if we don't, I think it's important to have a point person, and that's what the chair is.
I mean, I don't even think this line is necessary. Like, why does it have to be in the ordinance that the chair and the director are responsible for communicating with each other? That would just be like a normal,
I'd be
we would
thrilled to
just
have
be
that struck.
communicating, or like, you're supposed to communicate. I don't know.
Yeah, let's
Strike it.
eliminate.
Anyone else? Should we keep it in because the chair and the director are supposed to communicate? So maybe we should say that we should, or because we're supposed to communicate, we don't include it.
So if there's a lack of communication, then it falls to the town manager.
No, the trustees meet with me every month. There is no lack of communication.
I mean, that hasn't been,
giving a
that
lot
hasn't
of
been my
responsibility
experience.
to
That
the
hasn't been my
chair.
experience.
I
So,
come to every meeting.
no, I just, well, I don't want to get into anything that might be,
I
special.
think if you just say the chair, I think that gives the chair a lot of weight that would not normally belong to the chair of a board.
The chair of the
Chair
board
is
has,
supposed to have weight.
yeah,
Mm,
I think this is
I'd
about
argue
me
about
and not
that.
about like an imaginary
Yeah,
future
I
chair.
think whenever, and I've gone back over the last several weeks and gone to the Maine State Library website and gone over the roles and responsibilities of trustees. And if the chair should have more weight.
I would argue with that because the materials I've been looking at and the library management specialist disagree.
I think we should keep it in.
Okay,
I agree.
I
We should
disagree.
strike it because it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a trivial point.
yeah, I don't know. This is where I would like an attorney to weigh in. Could we put something in that says if this is unnecessary, it can be struck and then the lawyer could do it?
I think strike it. There's really no need for it. I come to the board meetings every month.
I think it's fine, just, it's not weird in any way to have that in. So.
I think it
And it
is.
was in the previous document.
Mhm. And it would be in like any board of directors type document. Okay,
I've seen a lot of those and they have not included that power to the chair. In fact, I believe when I did my proposed amendment, I struck every reference to the chair except the trustees. And I do think my proposal was supposed to be included in the consent.
we could take a vote if we want to keep it in. And then just move on.
Do I get the vote?
No, we don't. I guess I make a motion
Then
that,
that's really not consensus, because consensus is an agreement.
Can you
I-
clarify, did
I-
the select board ask the board of trustees to come to a consensus?
and the consensus in this sense means majority, not,
No, it doesn't.
No,
Did
we
it
asked-
be
we asked
clarified?
at the
Yeah,
meeting, and it
at the
does.
meeting, it was clarified that it was a majority.
Not my understanding of the term.
well, that's why we had to have it clarified. All right,
I think if you look.
Making a
at it,
motion,
it's not fair.
those, let's to strike this section about the chair and the director being responsible for communicating with each other. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor of striking, please raise your hand. All those opposed to striking, please raise your hand. Okay, the nays have. Are there other sections that
I
are,
think you should start at the beginning maybe and go back to it, because this is jumping out of sequence. It's
well, the
confusing.
board knew that we were doing this today, so I expected everyone to come with their ideas and edits to this. This wouldn't like, we need to end.
There was
soon,
one
'cause,
thing
like,
I noticed with Julie's, but changing the gender, so it says select the,
oh, select board instead of select men, yes.
yes.
And I really would like to have my preamble of my purpose included, because for future reference, I think it needs to be clear how this all came about. And I thought that was a pretty succinct way of explaining.
I personally think it makes more sense to just focus on one amendment and not two different amendments. It's complicated, so I would appreciate the board weighing in on this now.
Talking about this,
The very beginning, yes.
can I read it to you?
Yes.
The purpose of this amendment to the 1996 ordinance is to provide structural framework for the administration of library services by the town of Monmouth, and to fully integrate the Pumpston Free Library into the municipal structure of the town in order to ensure clarity and efficient administration of the library, and to fully vest the town with the governance and management of the library as a designated municipal department.
Yeah, we can't add that.
What?
We can't add that because it contradicts the rest of the ordinance.
I-
Because it has the town in control of everything.
Well, the town is in control. I am a municipal, the library is a municipal department.
The board of trustees changes that though. That's.
Well, you previously said it was 90% advisory. So that's why I changed this, because I believe the town needs to be preeminent
So
in this.
it says efficient administration of the library. It makes it sound like the town would be responsible for promoting the action plan. It's been pretty clear from the town manager that the town doesn't want to be involved in creating that's the job of the board. That's why we're here.
I didn't take out any reference to the action plan. I think this just makes it clear that ultimately it is the town's department.
Okay, in this amendment, the purpose of this ordinance is to provide a structural framework for the administration of library services within the town of Monmouth under the jurisdiction of town government and the board of trustees. It's pretty much what it was, but just without all the stuff about how we're taking it from a private nonprofit organization and all that kind of thing, because we don't need to have that in there anymore.
Like, it's referring to 961.
Mm-hmm.
think particularly important is the last paragraph that I added. That any governing authority retained or granted to the board of trustees is important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
well, no, that's not
no,
happening.
that's-
We did a vote when we started on, we were doing the complete advisory for the other one, so. We decided that.
I'm sorry, when was that?
At the beginning of the meeting.
Um,
all right, I've changed all the
there's
select
comment
men to
about
select
90%
board.
advisory.
No, that was before that, when we sat down initially, Anna asked everyone what their thoughts were and went around and they showed of hands.
But then you had said essentially the board is advisory, 90% advisory.
I said if I had to put a number, that's how I think of it in my mind.
All right, is there anything else? So I've changed select men to select board. Once we vote on this, and if we're, whatever we decide, I will then send this to everybody before I send it to the town tomorrow, so you can go through and be like, whoa, you made a mistake, right? Like,
And we then.
I'm not gonna just send it off to the
So-
town.
If we do an edit, if somebody, we caught something, someone, when we reread it and caught it, we can do a vote via. We voted on stuff before via email, yay, nay.
I think so. I think
Well-
it'll just be an edit.
Can we go to the private-public partnerships?
Overall
Which is-
management of the library's affairs are the responsibility of the board of trustees, the trustees. The trustees are elected by popular ballot, the annual town meeting, and 2 trustees are appointed by the select board. The town ensures the library's facility and collections.
Well, to me, that reads as governing responsibility, and that's why when I made my amendment, I said the overall management of the library's affairs are the responsibility of the town and administered by the library director as head of the library department. A 5-member board of trustees with staggered term acts in an advisory capacity to assist the library director. And then there is a typo, it just says the trustees, it should be 3 of the trustees are elected. And that followed throughout every revision, apparently. And I said I further said the town ensures the library's facilities and collection and provides other administrative functions as described below.
I'm fine with the way the public-private partnership reads, as long as I change 3 trustees are elected by popular ballot. Anyone else?
So that basically you're retaining the government authority, which is really what got us here in the first place.
We're keeping a lot of elements of the original ordinance because I think it's what the town wanted in 1996, and I think it's probably what the town wants now.
You're making, again, a lot of assumptions.
I'm not
I
making
think.
assumptions
Well, you said you think it's what the town wants now.
based on my conversations with people in the town.
My conversations with people in the town are exactly the opposite.
Right, so I think we need, like, so I feel like your people's needs are being met by what's been happening with how the library's being run, but there are other people's needs in the town that are not being met, and this is going to address that.
But there will be reasons for them not being met, and that is because they're too busy. The kids are involved with school affairs, sports, plays, etc. And that's not to say that we can't introduce new children's programs. I would support that if they come. But if they don't come, it's not the library's director's fault. That's what I'm saying. And so I think making judgments about how this library functions is not always valid to people who have wonderful ideas about what we could do with 1.7 staff and other problems that arise.
Limited funding,
What's that?
limited funding.
Right.
And
Well,
some-
that's
some
what
of
the
these other-
action plan would talk about, right? Like what the board thinks we could do, and then if it's, didn't work, then the board would have another chance the next year to be
Right,
like,
but
this
it-
worked, this didn't work.
But when you have just one person, powerful over the whole of our group here, it just strikes me as being too,
Well, the chair can't do anything without the majority of the board.
but
That's the way it's supposed to work. But I don't feel that is how it has worked.
I don't think that some people understand what some of the limitations are. And,
Well, some of the limitations don't exist right now. So like, that's one of the reasons why we want to amend the ordinance so that it reflects more
I'm
modern
sorry,
times.
that's not what I'm referring to. I believe unilateral decisions were made inappropriately. And actions were taken without the knowledge or discussion or vote of the board.
I think we need to steer us back to working on the ordinance.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I would like to go back to this public-private partnership. It was a private entity. I think to keep in that private refers again to governing, and that remains a problem. To say that you think that's what the town wants, I think legally you're entering some murky waters.
Have we put a lawyer then?
So the overall management of the
Where we
library's
should have
affairs are the
started.
responsibility of the board. Do we want to say, and the town manager?
I would prefer it read the way I drafted it.
Well, yes, we understand what you want. I'm asking the board now. So, the Board of Trustees and the town manager? Yes, anyone else?
Put the town manager in there.
Okay,
How about just town?
but the board represents the town.
The board really, the trustees are supposed to represent the public, not the town.
That's for the same.
Okay, I think we're getting confused because sometimes we use the term town with a capital T as the town management. And sometimes the term gets used as a lowercase town when you really mean
The voters.
residents or taxpayers.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get away from that term. It's very confusing.
Okay, so overall management of the library's affairs are the responsibility of the town manager and the Board of Trustees. Your trustees. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, is there anything else? Administration, Compton Free Public Library trustees, composition of the trustees.
Again,
Terms of
I think
office.
under administration, I don't think operation of the facility and management of the collection are the responsibility
Okay,
of the
really,
direction
the
of the
board
town.
really has to make a decision. We have to make the
There is
decision.
no time limit here. I thought we were here to talk
The
about.
public is not
the
supposed to make
ordinance.
comment, so I need the board, I need to get their input and
Am
you
I-
keep silent. So please, like, we know what you want, we know what you want.
I'm sorry, I definitely, don't think the director should be sidelined. I wasn't allowed to go to the previous work sessions. I was kept out of it because apparently the board felt it was a conflict of interest.
Okay,
Agreed with
point of order.
ethics.
Please, you're continuing to interrupt. So, does anyone else on the board have edits they would like to make?
Okay, so we're at the administration part. Other questions about library administration of the trustees?
I think this conflicts actually with the job description of the director. I wish I brought that with me. There's a lot of mixed messages going on here.
Just a reminder, if we don't amend this ordinance, it will continue to be the 1996 ordinance, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on the board. That we do not want, that is not conducive to the benefiting the library, it's not conducive to future boards or to anybody in the future. We want to amend this.
And I know
So-
you think I'm sidelining it, but this should not be rushed. the board needs to devote the time that it needs to devote. I think to expect that you're gonna get through this in a short time
Julie,
is,
we've all spent hours and hours working on this. This is not being rushed. This is just like fine tuning it at this point, so that we can make a vote.
I wish I'd been included at the beginning. Because we would not be in this situation right now.
Julie, I have to tell you, even at the beginning, I would have gone to having, to have a smidge of governance and mostly advisory.
Well, this is not a smidge of governance. This is a lot of governance. We have
Alright.
not had the town's attorney weigh in on it.
Are we like, do we have any more edits, or should we just make a motion?
When it says administration there, if it's, I don't know, if I, in my mind, think a lot of this should have some sort of, feeling of collaboration, that it's, you know, when it says the management of the collection responsibility director under the direction of the trustees. I don't know how that direction looks like. I don't, the collection, I'm not gonna worry. I know the director knows what they're doing to get like the right books, the right materials, the right, I don't feel like it's necessarily under the direction. Sometimes the
Don't,
director
my
comes to us and says, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about having that. I think it should have some, again, a collaboration or, somehow the wording, we use it elsewhere in there.
So instead of under the direction, something else,
Yes.
with input from,
Or said the management are the joint responsibility of the director and the trustees, or collaboratively.
I like joint.
Something like that, collaboratively.
How do other people feel about?
Somehow, that's my feeling, because we've all said this before, as far as, you know, we don't want to mess what works, but this is having some say on where it comes in when there's recommendations or insight, so that it's more than advisory, there's more. I feel like it could be beneficial. Work that.
Could I make a comment to that?
I'm gonna ask that first. With the administration, do you think it should be an all or nothing,
Definitely not under the direction. Julie does a great job picking up books. I don't think we need to mess with that. Collaboration, definitely, but not under the direction.
and again, it's also, we talk about in the future, we don't know all the directors that are down the road, that it may be a situation where the board may need to help with that, if there's a problem.
On the opposite tack, there could be a board that wants to ban books inappropriately. I think this is really,
But we wouldn't be able to ban books unless the board voted on it. And if we were representing a town full of people who wanted to ban books, we would be honoring their wishes.
if the board
And I hope
acted
that doesn't come to
appropriately,
pass, but
if the board acted appropriately, if they're that broken up where they want to ban books, I do think using joint is a slippery slope. I really do. I think it should be the responsibility of the library director. Maybe even period.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Just cut it out, the next part.
Well, but on the other hand, what if we get a library director in here and there's no,
Then you evaluate them and get them out.
A year later,
I presume there would be something more drastic.
this doesn't provide for that. So do we need to have it be the administration again, and then and have the town manager in here as well?
No, I suggested under the direction of the town.
well, I think joint responsibility of the library director and the trustees gives everybody like an opportunity. And so
How
that
about-
no one, like the director and the trustees, they have to work together.
Almost sounds like micromanaging.
Yeah, it does kind of a little bit.
So why not under the advisory or with the advice of the trustees if needed? I really don't like the word joint responsibility. That is my job. That is my training. That is.
Okay, so if we have, with advice of the trustees, and in that case, if say you have a board that is giving advice, the advice gets ignored, it would come up in the evaluation.
Yeah, okay, so let's just leave it as responsibility of the town, of the library director, period. That makes it easy. The trustees, it was just mostly, that section was just changed to reflect what happened with the friends, and the, you know,
where
the
are we? I'm
trustees
sorry.
making,
Can we-
the Compton Free Public Library trustees.
What-
And then
It's on
I'm sorry, where are we?
capital A, no, capital B, we're on
Well,
section B.
we're
They would-
underneath
they would-
administration, the next section,
Okay, so we're talking about,
Compton Free Public Library trustees. So
okay.
my
yeah,
only
I'm
edits
looking
were
at-
just to make it so that the trustees weren't responsible for preparing an annual statement of operations and giving it to the town. Because that's the library director's responsibility, not ours. So that
I don't,
would be good.
well, my suggestions have been to not just maintain awareness of the needs of the library, but also the library community. In order to help advise the director in efforts to maintain the library. And I also
Does
said,
anyone have edits that they'd like to that section? Because I wrote it, so I'm fine with it, but
Did you just confirm with her suggestion?
no, what it says, which just says the trustee shall promote and support the purpose of the library. And maintain awareness of the needs of the library in order to maintain it as a useful and effective institution within the community. That is a perfectly fine sentence.
Trustees are- maybe that's a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
We'll offer support.
As needed to the friends.
well, the reason I mention it, because the library community is very pro adult and senior programs. So I think it would be good to have that phrase in there, not just the needs of the library, but also the library community. That is basically the trustee's job. Make sure the library.
So yeah,
community
as a
is getting what
trustee,
they need.
I hear regularly that that the school and people with young families want more library programming, and so that's why I suggest it. Because it's my job to represent their needs, and so I feel like that sentence is imbuing me with that responsibility. Does anyone on the board have any edits to that sentence?
What's wrong with including the library community? If that's what you're saying,
So
that's
what-
what you're doing, why
So
not?
if you're only
put it
listening
in
to the
writing?
current community that's using the library right now and what their needs are, you're not opening up to the broader community who might be wanting to use the library, but the programming isn't currently available.
I'm not hearing from those people,
We know you're not.
but you
we
may
are.
be presenting that information as the role of trustee. And that's why I'm suggesting to include that phrase and the library community. The library community.
Okay,
And it's
does
being
any,
too
who would
ambiguous.
like that included?
That's a part of our job. That's what we do is promote and take in that information and relay it to the library director. So I don't think we need that. I think I go with what was here.
Who does not want that language included? Yep. No, are we, is this too much, we got too fast?
What did you strike the word?
We're gonna go, I move that we go with the section B as it's written in the McDermott ordinance.
Okay,
You want a second?
all those in favor? All those opposed? Chip does,
It really doesn't matter.
okay. The ayes have it. Moving on, composition of the trustees. This wasn't changed. This is just what it is.
Just the select person. And select board.
Yeah, I changed the select board. Term of office. This
Oh,
also has.
I think just to avoid any even semblance of impropriety, that last word in that paragraph, you might want to change being reimbursed for out-of-pocket expenses pursuant to policies established by the town.
Okay. Because the trustees don't have any
This hasn't come up. I mean,
out of pocket.
But if it does, you want to have.
the only thing I do is sometimes maybe we printed off a poster for Mayfair or something, but no friends would do that. I'm trying to think if there's any instance if
We don't have any money.
no, we
So,
don't have any
like,
money.
we don't
and
have any
I
money.
don't think there's anything that we've ever done, like we haven't done any road trips, we haven't done any, anything, but in case it ever happened, it's there.
Okay,
Well, then you would want to change.
So it says
policies
by the town.
established By the town.
term of office, also nothing changed. And then I removed the transitional terms, the elected members. the
Could we
appointed
go back
members.
to the term of office? I looked at a number of other library ordinances and bylaws. And it did say that, appropriate action should be taken to maintain the Board of Trustees at its full complement. And that well-qualified candidates be available to fill vacant positions. It included if a trustee misses more than 3 consecutive meetings without cause, the position might be considered vacant. You might want to have in there that
It
a
is
member
now.
can resign at any time. Where are you?
It's on, during,
Oh.
that one is there, resigning anytime, do we already have a bylaw for that?
We'll have to
Well-
probably update the bylaws so that they are in,
Compliance with the.
yes.
with the thing.
I think this is fine. Term of office, it's not, doesn't have to be fancy or complicated.
And it does not talk about removal of a board member.
That we could put into bylaws. Eligibility. 18 resident of Monmouth. Responsibilities, the Compton Free Public Library Trustee shall be responsible for assisting and overseeing the director in strategic plans and activities for the improvement of the library for the coordination of library activities with other activities of town government. The trustee shall proactively consult with the town manager on all issues of mutual concern.
So you did change the word overseeing
Yes,
to collaborating?
to assisting and overseeing.
They're just,
We're responsible for assisting and overseeing the director in strategic plans and activities for the improvement of the library.
I believe when you guys did your group, the word used there was collaborate.
Yes, and this does not say that.
well, I think collaborative.
You prefer the word collaborating?
Yep.
Anyone else prefer the word collaborate? Collaborating? Okay. My concern with that is from a legal standpoint, if you say, well, you supervise, but now you're just supposed to collaborate, so. The reason for that language was that it maintained the quasi-governance aspect of the board, and we weren't just advisory.
Well, supervising is governing, isn't it?
I think it's collaborating, we have the shall proactively consult with town manager on all issues of mutual
Okay.
concern, so if this comes up with something, so. It seems like the board is trying to collaborate, the director is not being
Okay.
receptive, if it becomes enough of an issue. It's basically like
Okay.
the referee, the town manager, like this is, and then
So collaborate,
collaborate.
all right,
Because.
everyone's
mutual
happy with
concern-
collaborate.
I'm happy with collaborating, I think it should be a team effort.
Okay,
and
meetings,
Could I add also to the responsibilities, wouldn't the director also be able to proactively consult with the town manager? If there was an issue with the trustee
I
board?
think that
this is the responsibilities of the
The
trustees,
trustees.
not of the library director.
this section. I mean, and the town manager, you've said many times, that your boss, you can consult with the town manager any
Yeah.
point. You know,
In the meeting section. I changed it, so like, we meet regularly with at least 1 week in advance, with an exception for emergencies, because I saw that in other town ordinances. Not that I imagine there's gonna be that many
Power
library
outages.
board
it happens,
emergencies, yeah, yeah.
Big Perry deal, 4-day power outages will make it so we don't even do Zoom, so.
And then I added, an agenda we made
But
to those in
it's-
attendance.
Excuse me, when you're talking about, that's relating to 1 week in advance with an exception for emergencies.
Mhm.
So you're saying you could call an emergency power outage, you would put it off. This looks like you're moving it forward. Because you're talking about at least 1 week in advance.
If there was something that came up, say there was like a fire and we had to have an emergency meeting, we don't want to be shackled with the week advance notice to the town. So we should have some sort of exception.
I remember we had several emergency meetings when COVID happened, and Sue Clark called emergency meetings to figure out what we were gonna do with the lot. It does happen, and they,
So
we did
we
not
still
have a
give, we
week's
still give a
notice.
notice to the public, all the
Nope,
same ways,
we had
but we
meetings
just
about
don't have to
what
do it
are we
7 days
going
in
to do.
advance.
It
Well,
does
that's
happen.
because we can follow the ordinance. plan.
Yeah, because that is, yeah, we know, yeah.
And then it says, an agenda will be made and available to those in attendance, and minutes or a recording of the meeting will be kept and forwarded to the town office after adoption. And so if we have the Zoom, then there's a recording that the town keeps as minutes. I think that,
How long does Zoom speak then? We know that, like, do you know that, how long does YouTube hold on to?
well, if it's uploaded to YouTube, the town owns that YouTube channel and that content wouldn't be removed.
He's looking quizzically, like he's not sure on
Because
that.
the YouTube is forever.
It's forever,
Yes,
so
it
we,
is.
do we need to have a hard copy or not? Do you think?
Hmm, should I take that out and then we still have to take minutes?
No, we can take minutes from the video, it'd be so much easier, because I forget.
Well, what's the, destruction of YouTube in the future?
Trying to put in all contingencies here, I think it's. I think it's okay, but. And then again, what happens if we have a problem with running the, recording, so
Then we have to take minutes.
we have to take it, okay?
Yeah. And we can always take minutes in addition to the recording. This is just giving us an option. There was nothing changed about the officers.
Can I go back to the last of that paragraph?
Mhm.
Are you still leaving in trustees can convene for workshop without?
No, I took that out. I guess there is another sentence. So a quorum is necessary to conduct business and shall consist of at least a majority of trustees.
So you've taken out the private workshop
Yes.
sessions without notice?
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Officers, nothing changed. Chair. I have the chair shall conduct meetings of the trustees and I changed supervise to manage the library director on behalf of the trustees and represent the trustees. And is dealing with the select board, the friends and the public at large. And sometimes I can delegate such responsibilities subject to the approval of trustees.
But again, that seems to give the chair a lot of power.
That's just a normal board.
Not in my reading.
The vice chair could act as chair if the chair wasn't there. Nothing to change in that sentence. The secretary,
Again, that's a governing thing. Manage is government.
Mhm.
Government. So
this is not an advisory board. We're not drafting an advisory board.
It's not
amendment.
completely, there is a smidge of governance.
that's more than a smidge. That's more than a smidge. You've got a lot of terms in here that talk about governing.
The
I
secretary
think it's
section,
being misrepresented.
the secretary shall record the minutes of the meeting or appoint a rotating scribe. That was the only section I added to that.
I think that's a mistake as well. Someone really it should be consistent, so you know what to expect, so people don't struggle with it. That's the purpose of having one position.
Well, we found in the past that nobody wants to be the scribe, so no one wants to be the secretary, so rotating it seems like a democratic way to have a solution. Does anyone have any issues with the like adding appointment of a rotating scribe? Because that's what we've been doing, and I just wanted to put it in so that we weren't doing something wrong.
My wife thought that was a great idea. She one time was the recording.
Nobody wants to be the
Nobody wanted to do
secretary.
it.
And I think if you find out that you decide to become a trustee, or you're looking into doing it, and you find out, well, you're the new person coming on board, guess what? Tag, it keeps you from wanting to be part of it. I think that, it's always so far been the rotation, and I find it helps me to see what other people do for minutes to change or streamline how I do mine and things I wouldn't have thought of. I like the idea that the video is there, a little better because, then if I miss something, you can go back, and
Mhm.
that's very helpful. So.
Okay, for the library director's responsibilities, that paragraph was only changed and it says the director shall assist the trustees in the development of, and then not the annual operating capital budget request, but the annual goals and objectives and long-range strategic plans, a periodic reports to the friends and the select board, and operating.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. Are you under C personnel, the first paragraph?
We are under, yes, C personnel.
So you're talking about the first sentence, blah, 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 volunteers as provided for. When you say an annual operating plan, so you're gonna replace that with the town's fiscal year budget?
We have, development of, and I just crossed out annual operating and capital budget required.
Yeah, we did that a while ago.
So, so would it be right to say the town's fiscal year budget?
and then, okay, hold on, annual goals and objectives, long range strategic plans, reports, operating policies of
I
the
don't, I don't
library.
see that in my copy.
Hold on, I'm trying to see where you are.
Under C,
Mhm.
personnel, the very first paragraph.
Mhm.
The library shall be staffed by a library director with the help of subordinate staff persons, interns and volunteers as provided for in the annual budget.
Paid staff persons and employees.
Yeah, so I was just trying to make it clear to say the town's annual fiscal year budget.
You want it to say the town's
Well, that is what it is.
Okay.
annual fiscal year budget,
Or
that's this
fiscal year budget.
year, instead of annual.
Well, if it says annual budget, then that's fiscal budget. Fiscal means money.
Yeah, I think she wants to have it so it's fiscal from June, or what the fiscal year runs versus an annual year. An annual year is in January and fiscal year is
And, yeah, and just specify it.
The fiscal
the town's
budget.
budget.
Okay,
Be clear on that. Because that would be what was paying
the
for the
town's
staff person.
fiscal budget. Okay. The only thing that was taken out of responsibilities was annual operating and capital budget requests. Friends was changed.
Oh, can you go back to the library director?
Mhm. Library director, the director is the principal staff person of the library. The director is directly responsible to the trustees and the town, I added that part, for the library's safe and effective operation.
Again, that's a dual governance.
It is a dual
It is.
governance.
Well, I'm being told one thing that you're mainly advisory and then you keep inserting these governance words.
I
So-
wouldn't use the word mainly advisory. I would say quasi-government.
Well, I was told it was 90%. If you had to put a number on it, it was gonna be 90%.
That's what I put from my end, but it's how I see it, and I still see that. That small amount of that saying that
It's
they're.
not what the
because-
document is providing you, it's providing you governance. You really should have had the town attorney do the first draft, you really should have, it's so confusing now.
I don't think it's, I think we're clarifying it because it's the 1996 ordinance to me is confusing.
You're retaining governance is what you're doing,
Mhm.
Um,
and that's not typical for a municipal library. It isn't. It's
Okay.
typical for 3/5
Okay.
of the state's libraries, which are.
We're moving
managed.
on, we're moving on. We wanna, we're almost done with this section. Responsibilities, the one part that I added is a statement of the operations. So this was what I took from what was the trustee's responsibility, and I put it for the director. So a statement of the operation and financial activity prepared by the director shall appear annually in the town report. The library director shall submit an updated budget on a monthly basis to the trustees in the town, and with prior review and input of the trustees will submit a report of library program and fiscal activities annually to the board of select board, to the select board.
I would like to go back.
Oh, to the board and this, maybe that's what it was.
I would like to go back. You got in there as staff to the trustees, right? You still keeping that?
Where are we?
under
Yes, as
responsibility?
staff to the trustees, the library director shall assist the trustees in the development.
Where is that defined as staff to the trustees?
That's just like the CEO is staff to the board on a business board. And the library director is staff to the trustees.
Well, I would like to add in before,
Should we say the town and the trustees?
no, I don't know what. We're going really quickly. It's hard for me to process. We're talking about supervision of other personnel. And I think it might say, and